I saw him pack. I watched him leave. 5 years gone in 1 hour. He said he found a soulmate. Her name was Sue Wan. She was young. She was pretty. She wore silk shirts. He packed his cologne first, then his shoes, then his laugh. He didn't look back. I sat on the floor. The tape gun felt heavy. The boxes were half full. Our wedding photo left a white square on the wall. 2 empty eyes, staring at me. He took my key. He took my quiet. He did not know I had a secret. One I never told. One I kept in a drawer. A deed. My grandma gave it to me. 12 shops on Wudong Lane. 3 flats above them. I said they were old houses. He nodded once. He never asked again. 3 months later, I stood at the bank. The teller slid a paper across the counter. My hands went cold. The deed was moved. Signed. Transferred. But the signature was fake. My name, written by his hand. He used it to borrow money. Big money. Bad money. He opened a cafe with Sue Wan. Number 1 Wudong Lane. Right under the old locust tree. I used to climb that tree. I scraped my knees there. Now she sold lattes for 48 yuan a cup. I counted the foam. I counted the lies that I did not cry. I did not scream. I walked to the accounting firm next door. I showed them my old certificate. Finance. Minor degree. I asked for 3 part-time jobs. Bookkeeping. Payroll. Tax prep. They hired me that day. I worked night shifts at a convenience store. I typed numbers into spreadsheets at 3 a.m. I tracked their water bills, their electricity, their garbage fees, every cent, every leak. I wove my web slow, 1 row at a time. Then I called my lawyer. I paid him with my savings. He sent a letter to the cafe. Certified mail, the kind that needs a signature. It said, "The deed is restored. The owner is Lin Wan. All leases renew next month. Rent triple. Plus late fees. Plus maintenance splits." I pinned a copy of the deed to the front page, like a nail through paper. That I sat at the sweet soup shop next door. Plastic chair. Wobbly table. 8 yuan for red bean soup. I watched through the window. Sue Wan crouched on the sidewalk. She pulled down the open sign. Her hair fell loose. Her lipstick smeared. Chan Ming shouted at her. His voice carried across the lane. Even the roasted sweet potato man turned his head. I took 1 spoonful. Sweet. Too sweet. My eyes stung. That night it drizzled. I loaded the last box into my rental van. The lane lights blinked off one by one, like dying fireflies. I checked my mirror. I hit the gas. A black Porsche swung around the corner. Fast. Too fast. Its front bumper kissed my rear. Metal scraped metal. I heard it. A long, ugly scratch that the window rolled down. A man looked out. Sharp jaw. Dark eyes. He frowned. "You're going the wrong way. This is one way." I knew his face. I saw him before. He stood across from the cafe. He took photos with a light meter. He wore a gray coat. Quiet. Serious. Someone said he was from city planning. His name was Shin Yu. I should have said sorry. I should have nodded. But I was so tired. So empty. I pushed my door open. Rain hit my face. Cold. Hard. I said, "This is my lane. I go any way I want." He stared at me. 1 second. 2. Then he laughed. Not mean. Real. His eyes lit up under the rain. He said, "Fine. Your lane. Your rules. But you scratched my car. You owe me now." I looked at his door. A white line. Thin. My van had rust all over the back. Old scars. New ones. I could not tell which was his. I opened my mouth. No words came. He leaned closer. His hand moved past my umbrella. His fingers touched my collar. A red bean. Stuck there. From my soup. "Don't move," he said. "You have something." His face was near. Too near. I smelled pine. Then, warm wool. My heart missed a beat. Loud. Stupid. He pulled back. He dropped the bean into a storm drain. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Let me drive you. Your headlight is cracked. One side. Dangerous." I shook my head. I pointed at my van. It coughed. A black puff. Then silence.
Dead.
He raised one eyebrow. He opened his passenger door. Get in, Boss Lin. I froze. How did he know my name? He turned his phone screen to me. A photo. My lawyer's notice. The one taped to the cafe glass. He said, I wanted to rent number 1. For my studio. I saw your notice. I read your numbers. Your rent plan. Your fee splits.
Clean.
Sharp. Better than my junior staff. He tapped his finger on the wheel. Rhythm. Like a song. I got in. The heater blew warm. My wet hair steamed. He said he was 31. Just back from abroad. City design. He needed an office. He wanted to talk.
Partnership.
Legal help. Spreadsheets. I looked out the window. Rain streaks. Orange streetlights. His profile cut clean against the glass. For the first time in 3 months, I was not calculating. I was not fighting. I was just. Scene. Next morning. Suwon came to my new apartment. Full makeup. High heels. She handed me a brown envelope. Divorce papers. Signed by Chun Ming. Plus a check. 100,000 yuan. She said, take it. Sign the deed over. We're even.
Her voice went up at the end.
Like a gift. Like a prize. I pulled out the check. I folded it once.
Twice.
I put it back in her palm. I said, 100,000. Not enough for your renovation deposit. Her face went white. I said, he owes me 3 years of property fees. He forged my signature on a loan. That loan will blacklist him for 10 years. Your cafe. Last month's revenue. I ran the numbers. Just enough for next month's rent. Not a cent more.
Miss Su.
Do you think we are even? Her lips shook.
She wanted to speak.
But the door opened. Shinny walked in from the convenience store next door. 2 cups of hot Americano.
No sugar. He saw Suwon. He paused.
Then he handed me 1 cup. He said, fresh. Just brewed. Suwon stared at him. Then at me. Her heels scraped the concrete. She turned. She walked away. Fast. Wobbly. Shinyu took a sip. He watched her go. He said, that speech. Worth a lot. I said, not enough. I want her to pick that check off the ground herself. He smiled.
Small. Warm.
He sat down across from me. He opened his laptop. A folder. My deed. My loan records. He had a lawyer friend. A handwriting expert. He had already asked them to look. He slid a note across the table. Evidence.
Solid.
We can win. We worked late that week. Every night. Sweet soup shop. Plastic chairs. Papers everywhere. He drew maps. I made tables. He circled clauses. I highlighted dates. One night he looked up. He said, do you hate him? I thought long. I stirred my cold ginger tea. I said, no. Hate costs too much. He laughed low. Then what are you doing? I said, I am asking for what is mine. He pushed my cold cup away. He gave me a new one.
Hot.
Just hot enough to burn my palm. Christmas Eve. The lane lit up with tiny bulbs. Number 1 had no sign. Suwon stood at the corner. A suitcase at her feet. Chun Ming smoked 10 steps away. They did not talk. They did not look. I walked over with the new lease. Fair rent. Market price. But one new line. Small print. No party shall use the owner's deed for loans. For transfers. For fraud. Ever. Chun Ming grabbed the pen. His knuckles went white.
He signed. He threw the paper down.
He said, you win. Happy. I picked up the paper. I smoothed its crease. I said, Chun Ming, this is not about winning. You chose the shortcut. I chose my own road. We are done. He grabbed his bag. He walked away. Suwon followed. 2 steps. She turned back. Her eyes were red. Her voice cracked.
Lin Wan.
I am sorry. Then she ran. Left her heels behind. Fireworks popped in the sky. The lane was quiet. I stood under the old locust tree. Shinyu came up behind me. He wrapped a scarf around my neck.
Gray. Soft.
He said, Your grandma sold sweet soup under this tree.
Right.
I nodded. He said, Can I have a bowl from you? I looked up. Lights in his eyes. Like gold dust. I said, 8 yuan. Red bean. He leaned close. His forehead touched mine. He said, Then I pay a deposit. He kissed me.
Pine. Then.
Ginger. Red bean. His hand held mine. Cold wind. Warm fingers that we opened our studio at number 2. Sweet soup downstairs. Design desks upstairs. His drawings covered one wall. My reports covered the other. We got married under the locust tree. 8 tables. Red bean soup on every one. Chun Ming did not come. Suwon sent a potted plant. A green vine. Note said, For your new window. I put it on the sill. Sunlight hit the leaves. They grew greener every day. I had a baby girl. On my due date, I was still counting last month's bills. Shinyu took the calculator away. No work today. He helped me into his car. Not the Porsche. He sold it. We bought a white SUV. A baby seat in the back. We passed the lane on the way to the hospital. Number 1 had a new sign. A picture bookshop. Little chairs in the window. Colored.
Q.
Sun on the stones. Warm. I held my belly. I said, What will we tell her about this lane? Shinyu held the wheel with one hand. He held mine with the other. He said, We tell her. A girl lost her home. She did not cry. She did 3 math problems. Money.
Law.
Her own heart. Then she bought it back. And found a man who loved her spreadsheets. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. The nurse later told me, First mom to laugh in labor. First baby to smile. And she did. Our girl never cried much. On her 1-month day, Shinyu held her under the tree. I sat beside him, blowing on a bowl of soup. A tourist took our photo. She said, This lane is so pretty. I looked down at the steam. Life is like sweet soup. Right heat, right time. Bitter turns sweet, that is my story. If you like Lin Wan, the girl who counted, who fought, who found her own sweet, subscribe to my column. Next chapter, her baby starts kindergarten. Guess who she meets at the gate? Subscribe. I will tell you. Love you. Big heart. The wedding was small. Just 8 tables. Red lanterns hung from the tree.
My aunt made the soup.
My uncle played the guitar. Shinyu wore a white shirt. No tie. He said ties choke him. I wore a simple dress. Off the rack. 120 yuan. I did not want white. I wanted cream. Like the soup bowls that we stood under the old locust. Its branches spread wide. Like arms. Holding us. The officiant was my high school teacher. She cried before I did. She said, Lin Wan learned early. Life gives you lemons. She made soup. Everyone laughed. Shinyu squeezed my hand. 3 squeezes. Our code. I love you. Suwon's plant sat on the gift table. A green vine in a white pot. The card said sorry. I kept it. Not for her. For me. To remember. I can forgive. I do not have to forget. Chen Ming did not come. No one missed him. My grandma's old friends came. They brought red eggs. They brought lucky money. They patted my back. They said, Your grandma would be proud. I almost cried then. But I did not. I smiled. I served soup. Bowl after bowl. That night we counted the gift money. Shinyu sat on the floor. Bills in his lap. I sat beside him. Coins in mine. He said, We made a profit. I said, We made a family.
He looked at me. Soft. Slow.
He said, You are my best investment. I threw a coin at him. He caught it. He kissed my wrist. We moved into the flat above the studio. 2 rooms. 1 big window. The window faced the tree. Every morning I saw the leaves.
Green.
Gold.
Red.
Seasons passed. I kept the books for the lane. 9 shops rented. 3 flats leased. I set fair prices. Not too high. Not too low. People stayed. They liked me. They said I was honest, that I also kept my day job. The finance firm offered me full-time. I took it. Shinyu ran his design studio downstairs. He drew parks, He drew plazas. He drew bike lanes. The city liked his work. They hired him for big projects. We were busy. We were happy. We were tired. Good tired. Then one morning, I felt sick. Not the flu kind. Different. I counted the days. I called my doctor. She said, come in. I went alone. Shinyu had a meeting. I sat in the waiting room. I scrolled my phone. I tried to work, but I could not focus. The nurse called my name. My heart pounded. The doctor smiled. She said, you are pregnant. I blinked. I said, are you sure? She pointed at the screen. A flicker. She said, that is the heartbeat. I stared. I could not speak. I walked out in a daze. The sun was bright. Too bright. I sat on a bench. I called Shinyu. He answered on the first ring. I said, come home early. He said, is something wrong? I said, no. Something is right. He came home at noon. He ran up the stairs. 2 at a time. He opened the door. Out of breath. I showed him the paper. He read it twice. 3 times. He looked up. His eyes were wet. He said, a baby. I nodded. He lifted me off the floor. He spun me around. I said, put me down. I am fragile. He put me down. He knelt. He put his ear to my belly. He said, hello. I am your father. I laughed. I cried. Both. The pregnancy was easy. No morning sickness. No back pain. I worked until month 8. I sat at my desk. My belly hit the keyboard. I typed 1 letter at a time. Shinyu made me stop at 8 months. He said, no more numbers. I said, numbers are my peace. He said, find new peace. He brought me books, romances, cookbooks, picture books for the baby. I read them all. I talked to my belly every night. I told her about the lane, about the tree, about her great-grandma's sweet soup. I told her about the bad days and the good days. I said, you come from strong women. She kicked, like she agreed. The labor came on a Tuesday, rainy, just like the night I met her father. I woke up at 4 a.m. A dull ache. I counted, 1 minute apart. I shook Shinyu. He jumped up. He grabbed the bag. He grabbed me. He drove fast, but safe. He held my hand in the car. I squeezed hard. He did not complain. The labor took 12 hours. Long, hard. Sweat. Tears. Screams. Shinyu stayed. He did not look away. He fed me ice chips. He wiped my forehead. He said, breathe. You are strong. You are so strong. I wanted to hit him, but I held his hand instead. He counted with me. 1, 2, 3. Pushed it. Then she came. A cry. Sharp. Beautiful. The nurse placed her on my chest. Warm. Wrinkled. Red. Her eyes opened. Dark. Like her father's. Her hair was black. Like mine. I counted her fingers. 10. Her toes. 10. Perfect. Shinyu leaned over. His voice broke. He said, she is ours. I said, she is hers. We both cried. We named her Linyu, Moon, because she came on a rainy night, but she lit up the room. You was quiet. She did not cry much. She ate well. She slept well. She smiled early. At 2 weeks. A real smile, not gas. Shinyu said she smiled at him. I said she smiled at me. We argued. Happy argue. That I stayed home 3 months. Then I went back to work. Part-time. Mornings only. Shinyu worked afternoons. We shared the baby. We shared the load. We made a schedule. Color-coded. He loved the schedule. I loved that he loved it. You went to daycare at 6 months. A small one. 2 blocks from the lane. The teacher was kind. Old. Soft hands. She called you Little Moon. You laughed. One day, I picked you up early. She was in the sandbox. Another girl sat beside her. 3 years old. Curly hair. Pink shoes. She gave you a shovel. You gave her a bucket. They played. Quiet. Happy. I watched from the gate. The girl's mother came.
She walked fast.
She wore a silk shirt. My breath stopped. It was Suwon as she saw me. She froze. Her hand went to her mouth. We stared. No one spoke. The girls kept playing. They did not notice. Suwon walked over. Slow. Careful. She said, Lin Won.
Eat.
I said, Suwon. She pointed at you. Your daughter. I nodded. She pointed at the other girl.
Mine.
Her name is Xia. I looked at the girl. Curly hair. Pink shoes. A dimple. Just like her mother. We stood in silence. The sandbox noise filled the space. Xia laughed. You laugh too. Suwon said, I did not know you had a baby. I said, I did not know you stayed in town. She looked down. She said, I left. For a year. I came back. I work at a bookshop. Down the street. I said, I know. I own that building. She winced, but she nodded. She said, You own a lot of things now. I did not say yes. I did not say no. I just watched the girls. They built a tower.
Sand. Vet.
Wobbly. Xia said, Higher. You said, More. Suwon said, I am sorry. Again. For everything. I was young. Stupid. I believed his lies. I hurt you. I looked at her. Really looked. She was thinner. Her eyes softer.
No sarpellis.
I said, I know. I forgave you a long time ago. She blinked. Tears fell. She wiped them fast. She said, Thank you. I do not deserve it. I said, Maybe not. But it is mine to give. She cried more. I let her. The girls kept playing. They did not care about grown-up tears. Suwon said, Can we start over? Not as friends. Not yet. Just as two moms. I thought about it. I said, Okay. Two moms. We exchanged numbers. We set a playdate. At the park. Next Saturday. I walked home with you. She babbled about the tower. About Xia. About sand. I listened. I smiled. That night, I told Shinyu.
He paused.
He said, Are you okay with this? I said, I am. She is not a threat. She is just a woman. Like me. Trying. He kissed my head. He said, You are a better person than me. I said, No. Just more practice. Saturday came.
Sunny. Warm.
We met at the park.
Suwon brought the snacks.
Fruit.
Juice.
I brought soup. In a thermos. Red bean. The girls ate together. They shared. They fought over a swing. They made up.
Suwon and I sat on a bench.
We talked. Small talk.
Work.
Weather.
Kids.
She said her cafe closed. She lost money. She lost the lease. She said she learned a hard lesson. Trust yourself. Not a man with a silver tongue. I said, That is a good lesson. She said, You taught me. From far away. I watched you build your life. I watched you get married. I watched you win. I hated you at first. Then I admired you. Then I wanted to be you. I shook my head. I said, Do not be me. Be you. Your own you. She looked at me. She said, Can I ask you something? I said, Yes. She said, Do you ever think about him, Jinming? I took a breath. I looked at the sky.
Blue.
Empty. I said, No. I think about the tree. The lane. My grandma. My husband. My daughter. He is not in my head anymore. She nodded. She said, I still think about him, but less. Every day less. I said, That is progress. The girls ran back. Dirty hands. Big smiles. You said, Mama. Xia lost her shoe. Xia hopped on one foot. Her pink shoe was gone. In the sandbox. Buried. I dug it out. Suwon tied the lace. She smiled at her daughter.
Soft. Real.
I saw it. She was trying. That was enough. We said goodbye. The girls hugged. You said, Bye Xia. See you soon. Xia waved.
Suwon guav.
I walked home with you on my shoulders. She pulled my hair. She laughed. I thought about the past. All that pain. All that fire.
Now it was just ash.
And from ash, new things grow. Dutchin, you met us at the door. He kissed you. He kissed me. He said, "How was the park?" I said, "Good." We made a friend. He raised an eyebrow. I said, "Suwon." He did not flinch. He said, "Good for you. Good for her." I hugged him.
Tight.
He smelled like pine, like home. I said, "I love you." He said, "I love you more." You said, "I love soup." We all laughed. That was our new normal.
Messy. Real. Sweet. Life went on.
Days blurred into weeks. Weeks into months. You grew. She talked early. She walked early. She ran early. She was fast. Like her father. She was stubborn. Like me. She loved the lane. She knew every shop owner. She said hello to every cat. She ate soup every day.
Red bean. No sugar.
Like me. Suwon became a regular. Not close, but steady.
We met at the park.
We met at the bookshop. We met at the sweet soup shop. She bought a bowl every time. She paid full price. I did not give a discount. She did not ask. Xia and you became best friends. They held hands. They shared secrets. They fought over toys. They made up in minutes. Kids are wise. They do not hold grudges. One night, I sat on our balcony. The lane was quiet. Lights twinkled. The tree swayed. Shinyu came out.
He handed me tea. Hot.
Ginger. He said, "What are you thinking?" I said, "About circles. How they close." He sat down. He put his arm around me. He said, "This is not a circle. This is a spiral. You go up.
Higher.
Each time." I leaned on him. I said, "You always know what to say." He said, "I learned from you." We watched the stars. You slept inside. Her soft breaths. Her tiny snores. I felt full. Not from food. From life. From love. From peace. I did not know peace could feel this big.
But it did.
It filled every corner. Every crack. Every old hurt. I looked at my wedding ring. Simple.
Silver. Thin.
It cost 200 yuan. But it meant everything. I looked at my husband. My daughter. My lane. My soup. My second chance. I did not need revenge. I did not need payback. I just needed to walk my own road. And I did. Step by step. Bowl by bowl. Day by day. That is my chapter 2. If you like this story, if you want to see what happens next,
subscribe.
Next part, you start school. Xia goes with her. And someone new walks into the lane. Someone from the past. Guess who? Subscribe and find out. Love you all. See you next time. US started school on a Monday. She wore a new dress. Blue with white dots. She carried a yellow bag. Too big for her. She did not care. She ran to the gate. Xia was already there. They hugged like old friends. Suwon waved at me. I waved back.
Easy.
Normal. The school was small. One building. One yard. A big slide. A swing set. 3 teachers. Mrs. Chun ran the front desk. She wore glasses on a chain. She smiled at you. She said, "New friend. Welcome." You smiled back. She grabbed Xia's hand. They ran to the sandbox.
Just like the park.
Just like always. I stood at the gate. I watched her go. My heart was full. And empty. Both at once. Suwon walked over. She said, "First day is hard." I said, "Harder for me than her." She laughed. She said, "That is the rule.
Kids adjust.
Moms cry." I did not cry. But my eyes felt hot. I blinked fast as we walked to the sweet soup shop. We sat at the plastic table. Same table. Same chairs. I ordered 2 bowls. Red bean. Extra sugar for her. She said, "You remember?" I said, "I remember everything." She looked down. She stirred her soup. She said, "I know. That is why I am here. You remember. But you still let me stay. I did not answer. I just ate my soup. Then the door opened. A man walked in.
Tall, thin,
Gray hair at the temples. He wore a suit. Too tight. He carried a leather bag.
old, worn.
He looked around. His eyes stopped at me. His mouth opened. He said, Lin Wan. I looked up. My spoon stopped halfway to my mouth. I knew that voice. I knew that face. It was my father, that I had not seen him in 15 years. He left when I was 12. He said he needed to find himself. He found himself in another city, with another family. He sent cards. On birthdays. On New Year. But he never came back. I stopped waiting. I stopped hoping. I made my own life. Without him. He walked to my table. He pulled a chair. He sat down. He said, I heard about you. Your lane. Your business. Your husband. Your baby. He said it all fast. Like he had practiced.
I did not speak.
Soo-won looked at me. She looked at him. She said, I should go. I said, stay. She stayed. My father said, I need help. Money trouble. My business failed. My wife left. I have nowhere else. He put his hands on the table. They shook. Old hands.
Thin.
He said, You are my daughter. You have to help me. I put my spoon down. I looked at him. Really looked. He was not the man I remembered. He was smaller.
Sadder.
Older. I said, You left me. You left Mom. You never came back. Not once. Not even when she got sick. He looked away. He said, I was weak. I was scared. I said, I was 12. I was scared too. He did not answer. The soup went cold. I did not care. Soo-won touched my arm.
Soft.
She said, Lin Wan, take a breath. I did.
1, 2, 3.
I said, I do not owe you anything, but I will give you one thing.
A job.
At the bookshop. Soo-won needs help. You can work there. Minimum wage. No special treatment. If you want more, earn it. He stared at me. He said,
A job.
I am your father. I said, yes. And you're a stranger. That is what you chose. He stood up. His chair scraped the floor. He said, You are cold.
Hard.
Like your mother. I felt that word.
Cold. Hard.
But I did not flinch. I said, She was not cold. She was strong. There is a difference. You never learned that. He grabbed his bag. He walked out. The door swung shut. Quiet. Fine. Old Soo-won said, That was brave. I said, That was tired. I am tired of being the bigger person. Every time. She said, But you still offered him a job. I said, Because I am not him. I do not walk away. She nodded. She paid for both bowls. She said, My treat. I let her. I walked home slow. The lane was quiet. Autumn leaves fell. Orange.
Brown. Red.
They crunched under my shoes. I thought about my father.
About his voice.
His hands. His words. He did not say sorry. He said help. He said, oh. He did not say, I missed you.
I did not need that.
But I wanted it. A little. Just a little. Shin, you met me at the door. He saw my face. He said, What happened? I told him. All of it. The soup shop. The offer. The walkout. He listened. He did not interrupt. When I finished, he hugged me.
Tight. Long.
He said, You did right. By him. By you. I said, I feel numb. He said, That is okay. Numb is safe. Feel it later. That night, I could not sleep. I went to the window. The tree swayed. The moon was full. You slept in her room. Her soft breaths. Her tiny hand on her stuffed bunny. I watched her. So small.
So pure.
I thought about my father. How he left. How I never would. Not for you. Not for Shinyu. Not for my lane. I made a decision. I wrote a letter. To my father.
Short.
Simple. I said, The job is still open. For 1 month. If you come.
Work.
Show up. Every day. We can talk. After that.
No promises.
Your choice. I mailed it the next morning. I did not wait for a reply. I moved on. Days passed. You loved school. She learned songs. She learned numbers. She came home with paint on her dress, glue in her hair. She told me about Xia, about the slide, about the class fish. She said its name was Bubbles. She fed it every morning. She was proud. I was proud too. Suwan and I grew closer. We had coffee. We had walks. We complained about sleep, about picky eaters, about laundry, normal things. She told me about her past, her family, her mistakes. I told her about mine. We did not judge. We just listened. That is what friends do. Then one morning, I walked you to school. A man stood at the gate. Gray hair.
Little pig.
My father. He wore the same suit, but his face was softer. He said, I got your letter. I am here. To work. I looked at him. I did not smile. I did not frown. I said, the bookshop is 3 blocks left. Ask for Suwan. She will show you what to do. He said, thank you. I said, do not thank me. Show up. That is enough. He walked away.
Slow.
Straight. You tugged my hand. She said, who is that man? I said, he is someone I used to know. She said, do you like him? I said, I do not know yet. Ask me in a month. She nodded.
She ran to Xia.
They hugged. They laughed. Kids do not overthink. They just feel that I watched my father turn the corner. He did not look back. I did not need him to. I had my lane, my family, my soup, my peace. He was a door, closed for years, now cracked open. I did not have to walk through, but I could peek, just a peek at that evening. I went to the bookshop. Suwan was at the counter. My father was in the back, stacking shelves.
Slow.
Careful. He did not see me. Suwan said. He came on time. He asked questions. He worked hard.
No complaints.
I said, good. She said, are you okay? I said, I think so. It is strange, but not bad. Just strange. I walked to the back. I stood near the shelf. My father looked up. He said, I read your letter twice. The one you mailed. You said no promises. I understand. I said, good, because I meant it. He nodded. He stacked another book. He said, I was not there for you. I cannot change that. But I can be here now, if you let me. I said, one day at a time. He said, that is fair. I walked home. The sky was pink, orange, purple, beautiful. I took a picture. I sent it to Shinyu. He sent back a heart. I sent back a soup emoji. He sent back a laugh. That was our language. Simple.
Ours.
You was already home. She sat on the floor, drawing. She said, Mama.
Look.
A tree. A lane. A bowl.
You.
I looked at her picture. A stick figure. A brown circle. Green lines. I said, is that me? She said, yes. With soup. You love soup. I kissed her head. I said, I love you more. She said, I love soup more. I laughed. So, did she? Shun you came in. He carried takeout. Noodles. Dumplings.
There.
He said, I thought we could eat outside. Under the tree. Family dinner. You clapped. I grabbed bowls. We walked down. The lane was quiet. The tree was lit. Small bulbs. Warm light. We spread a blanket. We sat. We ate. We talked. We laughed. Halfway through, I looked up at the sky. Stars. Many.
Bright.
I said, this is good. Shinyu said, this is everything. You said, this is noodles. We laughed again. I felt it.
Deep. Full.
That warm spot in my chest. The one I thought was broken. It was not broken. Just waiting. I thought about my father.
Far away.
Stacking books. Trying. I thought about Suwan. At her counter.
Healing.
I thought about you.
And Xia.
And their tiny hands. Their big hearts. I thought about Shinyu. His steady love. His quiet strength.
I thought about me.
How far I came. How much I grew. I did not need revenge. I did not need payback. I needed this. A blanket. A tree. A family. A bowl of soup. That was my reward. That was my win. If you like this chapter. If you want to know what happens next.
Subscribe.
Next part, my father stays. Or leaves.
So one meets someone.
Xia asks a big question. And you learns a new word. A word that changes everything. Subscribe to find out. I love your support. See you soon. My father stayed. 1 week.
2.
3. He showed up. Every day.
On time.
He stacked shelves. He cleaned floors. He helped customers. Slow but steady. He did not complain. He did not ask for more. He just worked. I watched him from a distance. Not close. Not cold. Just there. He ate lunch alone. A simple sandwich. An apple. He sat on the bookshop steps. He looked at the lane.
He looked at the tree. He did not look for me.
I respected that. One Friday. He came to my studio. He knocked on the door. I said, "Come in." He stood at the threshold. He did not step inside. He said, "I want to say something. You do not have to answer. Just listen." I nodded. He said, "I was wrong. To leave. To stay gone. To come back only when I needed help. I am sorry. Not for show. For real." I looked at him. His eyes were wet. His hands shook. He was not acting. He was just
old.
Tired.
Sut.
I said, "Thank you. That means something." He said, "It does not fix it." I know. But I wanted to say it. I said, "I know." He turned to leave. I said, "Wait."
He stopped.
I said, "Dinner.
Sunday.
At our place. Simple food. You can come." He stared at me. He said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I am sure. 1 meal. No pressure." He nodded. He walked out. Quiet. Sunday came. I cooked. Noodles. Vegetables.
Soup.
Red bean for dessert. Shinyu set the table. You drew place cards. She wrote Grandpa in big letters. She had never said that word before. She practiced it.
Grandpa. Grandpa.
She liked the sound. My father came at 6. He wore a clean shirt.
Ironed.
His hair was combed. He brought flowers. Yellow. My mother's favorite. He handed them to me. He said, "I remembered." I took them. I said, "Thank you." I put them in a vase. On the table. They looked bright. Warm.
We sat down.
You sat next to him. She stared. She said, "Are you my grandpa?" He said, "I am. If you want me to be." She said, "Okay. You can be." He smiled. A real smile. Small. Wobbly. But real. He said, "Thank you, little one." She said, "I am you. Not little one."
He laughed.
We all laughed. We ate. We talked. Small things.
Work.
Weather. The lane. He asked about my grandma, about the sweet soup. I told him stories. He listened. He asked questions. Real ones. He said, "She was a good woman. I did not know her well, but I knew she loved you." I said, "She did. She taught me everything." He nodded. He said, "She would be proud." I looked down. My eyes burned. I blinked fast. After dinner. He helped wash the dishes. He dried each plate. Careful. Slow. He said, "I do not expect a second chance. But I want to earn one. If you let me." I said, "You are here. That is a start." He said, "That is more than I deserve." I said, "Maybe. But deserve is not the point. Try is the point." He nodded. He put the last plate away. He left at 8. You gave him a hug. He froze. Then he hugged back.
Soft.
He said, "Good night, you." She said, "Good night, Grandpa." He walked down the stairs. He turned at the bottom. He looked up. He waved. I waved back.
Shinyu came beside me. He put his arm around me.
He said, that was good. I said, it was okay. That is enough. Weeks passed. My father kept working. He kept coming to dinner. Every Sunday. He brought flowers. Every time. Yellow. Always yellow. He told you stories. Silly ones. About a turtle who climbed a tree. About a fish who wanted to fly. She loved them. She asked for more. He made up new ones. Every week. He got better.
So did we. Suwan noticed.
She said, he is trying. Hard. I said, I know. It is strange. But not bad. She said, change is strange. Good strange. I agreed that one day. She came to my studio. She looked nervous. She said, I need to tell you something. I said, what is it? She said, I met someone. I paused. I said, a man. She nodded. She said, his name is Li Wei. He runs the flower shop on the corner. He is kind, patient. He has a daughter too. Same age as Xia. I smiled. I said, that is great. She said, are you sure? You are not weird about it. I laughed. I said, Suwan, I want you to be happy. I mean it. She hugged me tight. She said, thank you for everything. I said, you did it yourself. I just watched. She told me more. Li Wei was a widower. His wife died 3 years ago. He raised his daughter alone. He was quiet, gentle. He brought her flowers every day. Not for show. For love. Suwan said, he reminds me of you.
Strong.
Quiet. Loyal. I said, good. You deserve that. She smiled.
Wide.
Real that they started dating. Slow. Easy.
Park dates.
Ice cream dates. Play dates for the girls. You and Xia loved Li Wei's daughter. Her name was Mei.
She was shy.
But she laughed easy. The 3 girls became a pack. They ran. They played. They shared secrets. They fought. They made up. All in 1 hour. One afternoon. I watched them from the bench.
Suwan sat beside me.
Li Wei sat on her other side. He held her hand. She leaned on his shoulder. The girls built a sand castle. Big.
Tall.
With a moat. You said, this is our house. Xia said, we all live here. Mei said, even the fish. They laughed. I looked at Suwan. She looked happy. Real happy. I felt a warmth in my chest. Not jealousy. Not sadness. Just peace. Shinyu came to the park. He brought soup. In a thermos. Hot. Red bean. He handed me a cup. He kissed my head. He said, how is everyone? I said, good. Better than good. He sat down.
He put his arm around me.
He said, look at us. All of us. Together. I said, I know. It is a lot. He said, it is perfect. That night, I lay in bed. I could not sleep. I thought about the journey, the pain, the tears, the long nights, the empty boxes, the scratched car, the first kiss in the rain, the wedding under the tree, the baby in my arms, the father at my table, the friend beside me, the husband holding me. It felt like a dream, but it was real. All of it. I turned to Shinyu. He was awake. He said, you cannot sleep either. I said, no. Too much in my head. He said, good stuff. I said, all good. Just big. He said, that is life. Big. Messy. Beautiful. I said, you always know the right words. He said, I learned from the best. We talked until late. About the future. About Yu's school. About the lane. About my father. About Suwan and Li Wei. About Mei. About Xia. About all of us. He said, we built a village. From nothing. I said, from ashes. He said, ashes grow good soil. I kissed him. Long, slow. He kissed back. That was our language. No words needed. The next morning, I woke up early. I walked to the lane. The sun was rising. gold and pink. The tree swayed. The lights were off. The shops were closed. Quiet. Peaceful. I sat on the steps of number 2. My studio. My home. My heart. I looked at the street. My street.
Bought back. Piece by piece.
Not with revenge. With work. With hope. With love. My father walked by. Early shift.
He saw me.
He said, "Morning." I said, "Morning."
He paused.
He said, "I am glad I came back.
Not for the job. For you."
I said, "I am glad too. Not for the past. For now." He nodded. He walked to the bookshop. I watched him go. A stranger.
Now, a part of my life.
Strange, but good. Suwon walked by next.
With Xia.
On the way to school.
She waved.
Xia ran over. She hugged me. She said, "Auntie Lin, I drew you a picture." She handed me a paper. A stick figure. A brown circle. A green tree. She said, "It is you. With soup." I laughed. I said, "It is perfect." She ran back to her mom. They waved. They walked away. Shinyu came down. With you. She wore her blue dress. Her yellow bag. She said, "Mama, I am ready." I picked her up. I kissed her cheek. I said, "Have a good day." She said, "I will. I have friends." I put her down. She ran to Xia. They held hands. They walked to school. Together. I stood at the lane. Shinyu beside me. He said, "Look at us." I said, "I am looking." He said, "We made it." I said, "We're still making it." He took my hand. We walked to the sweet soup shop. We ordered 2 bowls. Red bean. Extra sugar for him. No sugar for me. We ate. We talked. We laughed. Simple. Normal. Perfect. That is my chapter 4. If you like this story, if you want to see the final chapter,
subscribe.
Next part, you asks a big question. About family.
About love.
About where she comes from. And I answer her. With my whole heart. Subscribe to read it. I love you all. Thank you for reading. See you soon. You came home from school. Her bag was half open. Her hair was messy. She had dirt on her knee. She ran to me. She hugged my legs. She said, "Mama, I have a question." I knelt down. I said, "What is it?" She said, "Where do I come from?" I paused. I said, "You come from me. And Daddy." She said, "I know that. But where?" Before she looked at me. Serious. Her dark eyes. "So like her father," I said. "Before you were born. You were in my belly." She said, "I know that too. But where was I before that?" I did not know what to say. She said, "Xia said she came from her mom's tummy. Mei said she came from her dad's heart. Where did I come from?" I took her hand. I said, "Let us sit down. I will tell you a story." We sat on the floor. The sun came through the window.
Warm.
Golden. I pulled her onto my lap. She leaned back. She smelled like school. Like paint. Like play. I said, "You came from this lane. From this tree. From this soup. You came from love. A lot of love." She said, "But who gave you the love?" I thought. I said, "My grandma, your great-grandma. She made soup under that tree. She made a home. She gave me strength. I passed it to you." She said, "What about Grandpa?" My other grandpa. She met my father. She had started calling him that. He liked it. I said, "He was not here before.
But he is here now.
He is learning to love. Like you learn to read.
Slow.
But steady." She said, "So I come from learning." I smiled. I said, "Yes. You come from people who learned. From mistakes. From pain. From trying again."
She thought about that.
She said, "Do I have to learn too?" I said, "Every day. That is the job." She said, "That is hard." I said, "Yes. But you are strong. Like your great-grandma. Like me. Like your daddy." She hugged me. She said, "I am glad I came from you." I hugged her back.
Tight.
I said, "I am glad too. Every day." That night, I told Shinyu about her question. He said, she is smart, like you. I said, she is curious, like you. He said, what did you tell her? I told him. He listened. He said, good answer. True. Real. I said, I want her to know. Her story is not just mine. It is ours. All of us. He said, we should tell her the whole thing. One day, when she is older. I said, yes,
but not today.
Today she needs soup. He laughed. He went to the kitchen. He heated the pot. He poured 2 bowls. One for her. One for me. He brought them to the table. He said, family dinner. Every night. That is her story, too. The next week, something shifted. The lane felt fuller. The shops stayed open later. The lights stayed on longer. People talked more. They waved more. They shared food. They shared laughs. It was not just a street. It was a home. For all of us that my father came to dinner. Every Sunday. He brought flowers. Yellow. Always yellow. He told you new stories. About a rabbit who found a garden. About a bird who learned to sing. She loved them. She asked for more. He made up new ones. Every week. He stayed longer. He talked more. He smiled more. So did I. Suwon and Li Wei got engaged.
Small ceremony. At the park.
Under the big oak. The girls threw flower petals. You threw too many. She covered the couple. They laughed. They kissed. I cried. Just a little. Shinyu held my hand. He said, look at us. All of us. Here. I said, I never imagined this. He said, neither did I. But here we are. I gave a toast.
Short.
Simple. I said, to second chances. To new starts.
To soup.
And to love. In all its shapes. Everyone clapped.
Suwon hugged me.
She said, you gave me this. I said, no. You took it. That is the difference. She cried. I hugged her tighter. We were not the same. But we were together. That was enough. The wedding was in autumn. The leaves were red, gold,
brown,
beautiful.
Li Wei wore a grey suit. Suwon wore a cream dress.
Simple, elegant. The girls wore matching pink.
Aue, Xia, Mei.
3 little flowers. They walked down the aisle. They threw more petals. They giggled. They did not stop till I stood beside Suwon, her maid of honor. Strange, but right. I held her bouquet. She held my hand. She said, I am nervous. I said, do not be. He loves you. You love him. That is all. She nodded. She walked. I watched. My heart was full. Not with revenge.
With joy.
Real joy. Shinyu stood with Li Wei. Best man. He looked at me across the crowd. He smiled. Small.
Warm.
I smiled back. That was our language. No words. Just looks. Just love. After the wedding. We danced. Not fancy. Just sway. Shinyu held me. He said, we have been through a lot.
I said, a lot.
But we are here. He said, where do we go now? I said, forward. Together. He kissed my forehead. He said, that is the only way. Yue ran over. She tugged my dress. She said, Mama, I want to dance too. I picked her up. She put her arms around my neck. We swayed. All 3 of us. Shinyu held us. He said, this is my favorite dance. You said, mine too. I laughed. I cried. Both. Weeks passed. The lane prepared for winter. Lights went up. Warm white. The tree got wrapped in gold. The shops put out signs. Hot soup. Varmtea. Cozy gifts. The lane became a destination. People came from other streets, other neighborhoods. They took pictures. They bought soup. They smiled. My father worked harder. He became a manager. Not official, but everyone listened. He knew the stock. He knew the customers. He knew the prices. He was good at it. He found his place. He told me one day, I should have done this years ago.
Work.
not run. I said, "You're doing it now. That is what counts." He said, "I am proud of you." I said, "I am proud of you too."
First time I said it.
It felt true. You turned 5. Big party. At the lane. All the shops decorated. Balloons. Streamers.
Cake.
A big one. With a tree on top. Red bean flavor. She loved it. She got gifts.
Books. Toys.
A new bike.
Pink.
With a bell. She rang it all day.
Ding. Ding. Ding.
We all laughed. She made a wish. Before she blew the candles. She closed her eyes. She thought hard.
She blew.
All 5.
Gone.
I asked her, "What did you wish for?" She said, "I cannot tell. Or, it will not come true." I said, "Fair." She whispered in my ear, "I wished for more Sundays." I hugged her. I said, "Me too." That night, I sat on the balcony. The lane was quiet. The lights twinkled. The tree swayed. Shinyu came out. He brought tea. Ginger.
Hot.
He sat beside me. He said, "What are you thinking?" I said, "About the beginning. The boxes. The rain.
The car.
The scratch." He said, "That was a good scratch." I laughed. I said, "It was. It brought me you." He said, "It brought me you too. But I would have found you anyway. I was looking for a studio. I found a story." I leaned on him. I said, "What is the story now?" He said, "The story is happy. The end." I said, "Not the end. The middle." He said, "Even better. Middle means more to come." I looked at the sky. Stars. Many.
Bright.
I thought about my grandma. I thought about her soup. Her tree. Her love. I thought about my father. His journey. His change. I thought about Suwon. Her growth. Her second chance. I thought about you. Her questions. Her curiosity. Her big heart. I thought about Shinyu. His steadiness. His patience. His love. I closed my eyes. I felt the breeze.
Cool. Soft.
I heard the lane. Quiet. Safe. I smelled the soup. From downstairs. Red bean.
Sweet. Warm.
I opened my eyes. I looked at Shinyu. He looked at me. He said,
"What?"
I said, "Nothing. Everything. All of it." He said, "Good." He kissed me.
Slow. Sweet.
Like soup. That is my final chapter. The story ends here. But life goes on. Every day. New soup. New light. New love. If you came this far, thank you. If you liked it,
Subscribe.
there will be more stories. More lanes. More trees. More bowls. I write for you. Every word. Every chapter. Love you all. Big heart.
See you next time.